Mandy, pretend to introduce yourself, but give horrible misinformation so nobody actually knows, and it's useless for the whole episode.
Yeah, hey everyone.
Read off Margaret Thatcher's Wikipedia page and pretend it's about you.
I do videos about video games at youtube.com/Nintendrew.
That's not what Margaret Thatcher did.
It's not?
That's really good.
Hi,
This
guys.
is really good, guys. This is awesome.
What did Margaret Thatcher do in Ireland? Can someone remind me?
A game showcase?
So direct, horse. Sam, how much do you even know about how that happened? Because I was on the ground floor. I didn't want to be credited at first, but I think I'm okay saying it now.
I caught the beginning of the project and the ending of it, but I missed the whole middle. However,
okay,
regale us.
Yeah. So why don't we walk this back a little bit, Mandy? So you make the YouTube videos for Nintendo, but in addition to that, you have this extremely weird position now at Hooded Horse, a game publisher.
Yeah, I'm now on the leadership team at Hooded Horse.
So fucking strange. Why don't we start with that, actually? Because I still don't understand entirely how that happened.
Right.
What do you do? What's wrong with you?
Why the fuck did they hire that man?
What I thought happened is also not how things went, which I didn't find out till a few months into it.
That's always good.
But basically, I've done consulting on games before. So a lot of them are wrapped under NDA, and they can range from, we'll send you a build, do this thing and send some feedback, and they say, cool, thanks, and they pay you, and that's the end of it. Sometimes it's more comprehensive, where they go, okay, cool, let's go in like a meeting with the developers or whoever for like an hour or two and talk things through. Okay, cool, and then they pay you, and then you move on with your life.
Even that is honestly surprising, because I assumed that usually that would be like localized to, focus testing. Like we want to know what the gamer crowd or the reviewer crowd has to say about this.
Well, I mean, it's kind of that. I mean, I've done those too, but like for testing, a lot of them in those early stages, they're not really catching design stuff. It's more just like, is this functioning? Like, is this buggy? Like, if something's really shit, they might hear about it. But a lot of the time, it's more, is this functioning? And that's what they're mainly concerned about for that kind of testing.
Yeah.
Like focus testing, there's sometimes you have people internal who like do that. But a lot of the time, it's usually, like we hear stories about it, it's like usually people in the office might play test things and go like, hey, this isn't really working. Like it can happen, but it can be kind of spread out, or someone flags something and there's not really a dedicated person for it. So what happened while I was doing my thing was that Hooded Horse had, I don't know how many games are publicly signed now, but they have a lot of games. They're out cooking in early access. And they would be asking people from the publisher, like, hey, before launch, like, can you give me feedback on this? Because everyone in the C-suite plays games. Like the CEO, Tim, he started the company because he got started in games. Like he was modding. He modded for Mountain Blade Warband.
Oh, wow.
He modded for Sea Dogs.
Hooded Horse as a publisher is starting to make a lot more sense now.
Yeah, he was a modder. And then in 2019, he basically said, he didn't want to pursue, he went to law school. And then basically said, wow, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life now that I'm in it. And he went, wow, like me and my wife love playing XCOM Long War, this big, huge overhaul mod for XCOM. And the developers had made a Kickstarter for Terra Invicta, which is like a standalone look at the insane depth we could add into our Alien game. And he said, I wonder if I could publish that for them. How does game publishing work? And so
you can't tell me that that's how the publisher started.
This will work for you.
No.
This fucking stunned ideas guy over here.
No. He had a friend like
viewer take notes right now.
He had a friend like passing along funding. He got some other friends on board, but it was mainly 5 people publishing Terra Invicta. Just like, oh yeah, I'm a modder too. Like maybe we can make this work and keep it independent and keep the contract not a nightmare. Because I really like Long War and I want to see this succeed. And again, this is more right. This is his story, so he knows the better details than I do. But that's his start.
Well, we don't give a fuck about him anyway. We're asking about you.
Well, it's again modern background. And at that time, he and his wife had been watching my my YouTube channel for a while, to the point that if you look in like the little Patreon credits, there's like slides at the beginning. Hooded Horse is on there for quite a few years back, because
that's crazy.
That was also his modding name. He modded under the name Hooded Horse. And that just converted into the company name. The name's basis is in like it's like a Norse mythology. There's this whole thing about Odin. It's a long story.
Right.
I mean, I just figured it was because like a horse with a hood was fucking badass.
I thought that too. And so what happened was, around the beginning of this year, I've usually doing YouTube. I'll do like contract work on the side. Not always like game consultancy, because that's like once in a blue moon. But mainly using my real degree and going, I'll do like some contract work on the side, because I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket if I can help it.
Wait, you have a degree in gaming?
No. No, I said my degree not involved in gaming. Like, no, I went to school for completely separate things. So my degree in gaming, that's why they hired me.
The real world Michael and Sony fucking advertisement equivalent.
Dry fucking Power Up 62, whatever those commercials were.
Billy, play the entire Michael ad. This episode's awesome.
Play the entire touch up those graphics in level 3 ad. That's one of my favorites.
Play them both at the same time, one left ear, one right ear.
Play one entire episode of The Tester, please.
This will go on for an hour.
The Tester was such an insane show, like where the reward was getting to be a tester at Sony Santa Monica.
No.
That's the reward.
More specifically, they got to play games as a job, Mandy. Kind of a dream job.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Testing games is it's just like playing games, especially back then before they had all those automation tools.
Right.
Before
before you could do it by machines. Yeah. I can't wait to play God of War by going against the wall and pressing A 100 times. I didn't want to say the competition was relevant because the tester was whatever the fuck for challenges. Like, you're gonna work at Hell's Kitchen, you're gonna be at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant, and you're gonna be a janitor in the bathroom.
Yeah,
you get to work in his restaurant
to solve these three riddles.
So that you can do something that is not at all fucking right. Whatever. We're getting off. We're so off track.
Well, no, it's like even then janitors, like, you could have mobility if you're in a place, you make connections where like a lot of testing, they might get into QA because a lot of games, like, people want to get into it and they go, okay, like, I'll take anything just to get into this company I want.
Right.
But they have ambitions where it's like, I want to, I've heard saying, it's like talking to coworkers, like 80 to 90% of people in games have their idea for a game, and they view a lot of their positions as sort of not transactional, temporary. Where it's like, I'm just kind of transient. Where it's just, I'm going to be here for a little bit doing, arcs. They go, I will have to make a character for World of Warcraft, and they work for Blizzard, and it's cool. You're a modeler. We have a lot of pots and shrubs and little debris that we need you to make. Like, okay, if I just do this long enough, make some connections.
You need to make 700 blades of grass.
Yeah, where it's, I want to be making characters, but you got to start somewhere. That's how it goes.
Yeah. It is crazy to think that depending on the QA position, at least if you work as like a janitor in a 5-star restaurant, you actually do have like a more foreseeable path of upwards progression.
Oh yeah,
because you're at least guaranteed to be in the same fucking building as the thing you actually want to do.
What's also like, if you're a janitor in that building, it's, hey, how much were you paid at that janitor job? Like, oh, here's my salary because I was working at like this high end place. It's like, oh wow, like that kind of thing moves around. And
yeah. Shout out janitors.
Shout out janitors. I'm hoping that their entire QA department ran off of a golden ticket system. Where all
winners of the tester.
Yeah.
I hope that QA testers get drafted in the near future.
Yeah. The sad part is, because of that, I don't want to say it's as spread as it used to be, but there was this thing where testers move up into QA, and QA is its whole department where they go, it's like, it's QA, like, it's not real game.
Yeah.
It's not that important.
Yeah.
Where it's like, God, like, having good QA, like a good QA manager, that's so fucking important.
It's so difficult for me to imagine being a developer and having experience with the QA team and then still shitting on them.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which is really cool for you specifically to say, Sam, with your colored history surrounding QA teams.
I can't talk about that still.
You can't.
But leave this in,
I figured
please.
we had danced around it in the
please
past.
leave this in, that I have a QA testing story that is so funny that I cannot tell it. For fear of consequences. and that is the level at which QA is necessary to a game's development in coming out in any acceptable form.
I think that is one of the worst parts of working games, is you get so many fucking wild stories where it's like, great, I can't talk about this publicly for at least a decade or two.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
This is insane. This thing happened where I can't talk about it.
Dude, that has been the biggest challenge of running this
Mm-hmm.
podcast so far, is that most of the interesting shit that is happening in either of our lives that pertains to what we want to talk about here, we
Yeah.
simply cannot.
It's right, because like part of the original idea was that like, oh well, I'm doing a bunch of public projects as well, so that will be the thing, and then those kind of just stopped happening for a myriad of just a whole bunch of personal reasons and life shit happening, and it's made it hard to focus on too many things at once. And so like the non-publicly talkable part of my job has gotten more insane as a counterbalance to that, and I can't. It's fucked up.
It sucks.
Yeah, I make funny little YouTube videos. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, same, honestly.
So if we can try to salvage,
if we try
this,
to talk about stuff that we can talk about.
Yeah, so looping back to this, in like January, I basically made this Patreon post that was like, oh, like I've done contract work forever, but this YouTube thing has seemed pretty stable. This year, I'm gonna stop doing contract work and I'll just focus on YouTube, and I'll see where that takes me. About, I want to say a week or two later, I get an email from Tim, the CEO of Hooded Horse.
Wow.
And he basically said, he laid out, I'm sure I have the mail saved somewhere, but he basically said like, hey, like, we want to make this position for you. It would be a leadership position at our company. And when he had it,
that is such an insane thing.
Well, yeah, I was staring at it like, huh?
Yeah, like where's the catch? This has to be a scam.
He had reached out before, I think in like a year or two before. He's like, hey, like going to Gamescom. I was like, no, I won't be there. And then he said like, hey, this is unusual. Like he was fully aware this would be strange. He basically said the equivalent would be a director of editorial, which some other publishers have if they have like a ton of like games kind of in the corral. And he said that, okay, like you'll basically, this will be a collaborative role. We have a bunch of developers here. Like you'll work closely with them. You provide feedback to their designs and builds, help them identify areas they need support, how ready are the games, where could they be improved, etc. Because he basically said the C-suite, which they would all take time out of their day like to try and test games and keep up with them. They said, we really can't like, we don't have the time anymore with how the company's expanded to do this on our own when we have so many games signed at the same time. And it's also like the things we're trying to evaluate have to be at a leadership level, because like if we have like a tester go on and give opinions, it's like, okay, well, we need to make executive decisions. Like, is this ready for release? Does it need more time? Do we need to give this game more funding? Like these higher level things where you can't have someone more down the totem pole looking at the game and also making those kinds of decisions. Which, again, is very strange that you would look at a YouTube video.
So they hired Nintendo.
Where they look at a YouTube video and say, that'll be fine.
Yeah, that'll be the guy.
That guy seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Me, whenever I see him talking in Mandarin.
What the fuck is that even a reference to?
That's Direct Horse. Fake
right.
fan.
Yeah, that was the... I never told you, Sam. That's
the
this
CEO.
guy. That's the CEO.
Yeah.
He's fluent in Mandarin. But
anyway,
yeah. So for reference, his wife is also the company's CFO, the chief financial officer. So he and her had like watched me for years. The company's the chief marketing officer had also watched me for years,
and a bunch of the developers who you now work with have also been watching you for years.
Yeah,
you've told me.
Yeah, there's a good chunk of them have. Others like didn't know who I was, and like that's fine too. But
as long as you introduce yourself as Nintendo, I think they'll understand pretty quick.
Well, it was surreal because he basically said, in fancier words, he said, okay, like me and the team has looked at it. It's like, we're trapped in meetings. We can't do this. And he said, we need 2 rare skills in it. He said, we need insight into a very broad range of genres and aspects of games, because it's like, I don't want to say they're locked into strategy games like RTS. It's more strategy is sort of like it's more like strategic thinking. They go like, oh, like we would want an RPG because that requires strategy. Like it wouldn't just be these like RTS games or city builders. And he said we need someone who understands this range of games. And we need someone who knows how to approach feedback from a place of understanding and caution, how to communicate devs their ideas and feedback, and not to try to play game designer directly or be too heavy on it. Unlike, oh, like you should just do this. Like the devs need to do this. It's more like identify problems. Maybe have some solutions, but be good at identifying problems and making it human speak. And he said, we've been watching you for years. We think you're perfect for this. Come interview with us.
And what's fucked up is that it looks like they were right. It looks like I think it looks like they just made the right
How
call.
long have you been working there so far? Is this
Almost a year now.
Wow.
This happened in like January, February. But what happened was I went, oh, like game publisher. I've heard the horror stories about those.
I've heard about the publishers.
Right. Yeah, well, I looked at their website and I was like, oh, cool. They publish, I was like, oh, there's like Terra Invicta. I went, oh, they have like Workers Resource. I didn't know they published that. It was more, I recognized a few games, but I wasn't super familiar with them.
Right.
I think I was like, okay, we'll talk about it. And of course I had concerns about it as like, because going in, he said, oh yeah, by the way, like you could keep your YouTube channel. Like you could keep that completely separated. Like we have other people in the company who are in YouTube still. It's completely fine. Because I was like buried in questions where it's like, how does this work? Like, you know, if we're getting games pitched and stuff and I go like, no, it's like, would I never do a video on that game? Because it's like, oh, they approach the company with that. Then like I shoot it down to make a review going like, oh, this is a shitty game. Not that that's, not that that's ever happened.
I'm glad that,
but it's like,
yeah, I do want to come back to that specific concern later, because especially with a lot of the stuff that's going on with YouTube broadly, I'm really curious as to what the rule of thumb is on your end. Continue.
I had a lot of questions like that. And the marketing officer was very happy. He said, oh yeah, when Tim got me on board, I'm glad, because I had like the exact same questions you're asking now about like the ethics of it and like how this should be done, basically.
Yeah, because it's like one thing if you are more entertainment focused as a YouTuber or more just like general thought piece, whatever.
Right.
It wouldn't be as weird, but your entire career on YouTube is built around critique of things that you're interested in.
Right.
And so if the thing that you're managing is also exclusively stuff that is in the crosshairs for coverage, then
exactly
there are intrinsically like a million ethical problems with that if you don't create guardrails very early on.
Oh yeah, it's like I'm trying to like think of a scenario. Okay, let's say like we have like a city builder coming out, and that's like, oh, that's right, some other company also has a city builder coming out the week before. It's like I could go, oh, I'll make a video on that and just like trash the city builder. Be like, oh, like it's not good, it's boring, derivative, da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then people go, oh, well, I'm not interested. Oh, there's another city builders coming out. Like, maybe I should go for that one. Like, I'm sure there's tons of pitfalls like that I haven't even considered. But
Sam, the way you put it, and how weird a lot of the dynamics from the outside looking in are, is like if it was reversed, you'd be looking at God, how did you put it?
I think the example that I put in was like
the Devolver thing.
Yeah, it was like imagining the Devolver CEO putting out YouTube videos negatively reviewing other developers' games who are coming to them asking for funding. It is is something like that.
The inherent power dynamic is kind of fucking crazy. And like if that happened, if Devolver just started doing that, everyone would rightly be like, "Fuck off."
Well, the Devolver CEO. Like, I'm just imagining a scenario where I pitched my game to the Devolver CEO, and then 2 years later, it finally comes out with a different publisher, and he just like starts shitting on it,
shitting all over it. Right?
Yeah, I'm just like, this is you hold the money card. You're affected by prospects potentially. It's the whole thing.
So yeah, it's just like
it's not just a negative review at that point, because you are in a position of controlling the way that funding gets directed in the industry, and people look to you for that kind of anyway.
There's all sorts of ways to weaponize it. If you're like, how could I be nefarious with this? There's
like
so
zero accountability. There's like no accountability in place for this. Like there is nothing stopping people in this position from just, weaponizing it against other people, against any competition.
Yeah.
Which makes me really nervous.
I think people are smart enough not to. Like, I've seen, like New Blood guys will play all sorts of stuff that comes out. Like, if you follow their developers on Twitter or anything, you'll see everyone will just post their opinions. Like, oh, I'm not going to stream this game. I'm going to do this. Like, I'll do this review of that. Where it's like, I think people have enough tact for the most part to know when you shouldn't cross a line on something. But I'm sure there will be someone someday they're going to find out something about them where it's going to go, oh wow, when they were shitting on this other game, they actually had like investment. I mean, hell, you could do that. Think of that. That's actually one of my fun things I got to be introduced to joining the company. They said that, hey, because of insider trading, you're don't invest in technology anymore. Like, you're not allowed to play the stock market or go into because you're now in a position where that's just insider trading.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's like, if you're on the YouTube end, like there could be someone who's like, oh, if there's like two competing games coming out, like maybe if I have enough influence, like maybe I should just shit on this other game and prop up this other one. It's like, how do you find out? Like no industry job directly. Like there's a crazy amount of ways that can happen.
I mean, this is something that I've been grappling with as well, just now that I'm getting kind of buddy with Strange Scaffold, the developer, because like I'm in a position wherever I can tangibly impact game sales for them now. And I've been trying to do that for at least one of their releases. But the important thing remains, like, anytime I do that, I want to be extremely clear about the fact that I'm very biased in that regard. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, like, I don't know. I figure, like, if I'm getting nervous about just, like, that dynamic of just, like, I have friends who work here and I would like to see them succeed and I can, like, sway that a little bit. When money actually gets involved, it's... God.
I
will
use
to abuse the system.
Just that way of doing it, like, I could never... I've had people ask me, like, oh, can you do a video on Ultra Kill? Like, full disclosure, New Blood has never paid me for anything. Unfortunate Spaceman, Ultra Kill, any of it. It's like, oh, Ultra Kill, like, I've talked with Hikita about, like, story stuff. I've contributed, like, some minor audio stuff to the game. I'm a fucking boss battle in the game. There are so many ways where I am involved in Ultra Kill. I'm not making any money from it. I have no financial incentive. But if I went and I made a video going, wow, Ultra Kill is so cool, there would be such clear, like, bias in that, where it's, I mean, that's how these controversies start, where it's like, oh, this journalist was actually friends with this developer and they're giving, like, their game a positive review. Is that because they really enjoyed the game, or is that because they're their friend? Yeah. And that's why I don't go to press events, because those are kind of, I don't want to say they're all designed that way. But it's like, if someone's going to go and shit on some game, it's a lot different if, like, even if you're not paid, if they fly you out to some party or some event in, like, Los Angeles, you meet the developers, it's like you kind of get to know them, you have dinner, you play the test version of the game, then you get it later.
It's whenever you go back and you want to be critical about it, you're thinking about those people a lot more.
Yeah,
it's a lot harder to just be candid about your thoughts.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, this character design is bad. It's, oh, Mikey's character design doesn't look very good. It's, oh fuck, I know that guy. It's like, and it would feel like a betrayal too. Like if it's like, oh, this guy I had dinner with,
absolutely,
and you're gonna shit all over his work and be like, oh yeah, this doesn't look good. This isn't cute. Like you're gonna, oh man, I should softball it a little bit, and that's not really your feelings on it anymore. So then it's the exact same problem. Right? Yeah. It's just I'm not friends. But like, oh, I got to know them, and now like I've seen the face behind the work. And it makes it harder to be critical on it.
But at the same time, it's so hard to balance that, because, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, it can be very easy to misinterpret this conversation as, like, are you not thinking about the human being who made the thing before meeting them?
Exactly.
It's like, no. Just no.
It becomes personal.
It gets personal. Yep.
Yeah. It's this person I talk to, or... It's like, even, I know people say like, oh, I can separate completely from my work, but it's like, I'm sure that's true to a degree with people. To a degree. People have different degrees. Yeah. It's like, oh, I like my music. Like, I can't wait for you to play the game and hear my tracks. Like, the music is dog shit. It's so repetitive and awful. And then you're like, are you going to go to that person and be like, hey, Fred, like, how are you doing? Like, you still working on music? Like,
still working on your dog shit awful music?
Right. It's like, it becomes personal.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about the difference between developers making reviews of each other's games versus like a publisher doing that. When you're talking about doing reviews of each other's work and calling out everyone's dog shit music, as you absolutely should, especially if they're your friends. You should make your friends feel bad about that. Is it different to...
Way ahead of you.
That's what I'm second saying. RJ, don't ever come back on this podcast.
RJ, you're not welcome back here.
But yeah, do you think it's like a different thing to position it as a review versus using your platform to be like, my friend made this thing, and you should look at it?
I'm sure you could do it differently. I had this recently with Space Marine 2, because I made a video on Space Marine 1 a few years back, and people were like, oh, you should do one on 2. Like, you never thought there'd be a 2, and it's coming, and some things you thought 2 would have is here. Except I did some voice work in Space Marine 2. They didn't pay me. They gave me a fuck huge, they gave me like a fuck huge Space Marine statue. And I looked at what a workshop had made.
Wait, in the game?
No, like a real statue.
Oh, goddamn.
It was made by What a Workshop. It's like, it was...
Oh, fuck yeah.
They sent me a collector's edition. It had like a little figurine in it. And I thought, oh, this is the statue. And then this huge box arrived, and I realized they meant like a collector's edition and a statue. Like, and it's in my closet for now because it's so big. I don't know where to put it. It's like this enormous desk ornament.
But yeah, no, I see what you mean already. Right. Like this is gonna. You're kind of chummy with them now. How do you make a review?
Right.
You're slanted
so
now.
It's too transactional with that because it's okay. They sent like no, they didn't give me cash, but they have paid me basically. Like if anyone else had heard this, like oh they got like this huge package before doing it, and then they made a review saying like oh I really liked it. It doesn't matter if your opinion is still the same. You hear that little factoid about it, and it's like, oh, of course they're gonna like it. They sent them this fucking thing.
Yeah, and it's like, and there is a nugget of truth in it, right?
Yeah.
Because like now you feel very differently about it because you're now like, it's personal,
right? So like what Sam was saying, could I make a video called like talking about Space Marine 2, and I have this big preamble where I explain like, okay, here like the first game, and like here's what it's like to work on it. They sent me this big fucking thing. This is all, you should take everything I say with a massive chunk of salt because, you know all this. Now let me talk about the game. I think that would go over better. I'm not sure if it's something I want to do.
Yeah.
But it would at least not be like, hey, here's Space Marine 2 review.
And you just say nothing about your relation with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
no, I think you're right. That's more or less what I would imagine would be the way to go as well.
I mean, you could just not disclose it like a lot of people do fucking do.
Now there's an idea.
Right, and now that sounds profitable.
If we could just take a minute to talk about the cleansing properties of Mountain Dew, by the way, I'd really appreciate that. No
all right, man. All right. Hold on. A little too close to the sun. Let's back off.
I mean, it is... I have seen before where it's like there's been a list of... Because I say every fucking email I get. I have seen people make quote unquote reviews where I have turned down like the super cool double deluxe packages that come with getting an early copy on them.
Yeah.
And I know people who have gotten those big boy copies and have not mentioned it at all in their video.
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll sometimes have some tertiary stuff that looks kind of weird. Like, hey, I after my video on game, isn't it so cool that the company gave me these CPUs branded on game to give away?
Oh, after.
Yeah, where it's
that's
like
cool.
where someone could put together like, if that company has given them like branded shit to give away right after the review, that seems strange. How do they have that already?
Like payments to me.
Right, and again, they might not, it's not even on the companies because they might not always say, they might not ask for a review specifically. It could just be, hey, do you want to make a video on the game? And like, we'll send you this thing.
Right.
And people go,
give you
sure.
the key, and that's that.
Yeah. And then if they go on their own and go, oh, I'm making a fucking review on it and giving saying it's critique. It's like, are they going to kick down the door and say, you can't do that? Sometimes they do. Like, hey, you need to fucking disclose it. Sometimes things are so busy or everything else is going on, they just don't bother with it and they just live and let live. Yeah. But it definitely does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Sam, you had things to say?
Oh, no. I was just going to say, there's like two big wrenches that I kind of want to throw in this conversation. One of them...
Man, and we still have a million things to talk about after this.
Yeah,
Fuck
sure.
me.
But one is that by the time this comes out, hopefully the video we're currently working on will be out. But we are doing this big... as
you can talk about it candidly.
Yeah, we're doing this video that is about a canceled project that Strange Scaffold worked on, where they gave Julian full access to the Discord server and all of the channels for this game that is now never going to come out. And there was interviews with all the developers and shit like that. And it is
ongoing access. At time of recording, I'm just in the server.
Ongoing access.
Yeah, completely unsupervised.
And
really I'm just in there.
Yeah.
It's a really weird position to be in.
Yeah. And something that has repeatedly come up, especially from Zolivir specifically, is that the
CEO of the company and creative lead and both of our friends.
Yeah. Is that he has repeatedly been insistent that as much as is humanly possible, we factor that out of the telling of the story. And that if there are things that will make him look bad, that should be part of the story still, if it's true.
How has that been to do?
It helps that there isn't really anything in it that makes him look bad. The main
but he's your friend.
Yeah.
Right? You're saying that he's your friend, there's nothing bad that he didn't do anything wrong?
The main thing I think that was, because he's kind of just a being of pure light and he's never done anything wrong his entire life, and that's kind of the story that we're going to tell. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, we're making the whole thing about him rather
Yeah.
than the game, actually.
no,
That's
actually,
kind of cool. That's daring.
yeah, it's really avant-garde.
Yeah, we're really breaking new ground here.
Yeah, it's just kind of like an hour of us high-fiving him about how awesome he is, and then it's sponsored.
Yeah, we keep like pointing to his Forbes 30 under 30.
But yeah, like there's really just like the one thing that's like when the project was canceled because of a lot of circumstances, he thought that he had reached out to everyone on the team and told them it happened, and he didn't. And some of them didn't find out that the game was canceled until the group call that we did talking about the game.
Oh Christ!
Which is rough.
Yeah, no, we were the ones who told multiple developers that the game we're doing coverage on it is not going to happen.
So someone has a story where I was working the game and these fucking YouTubers came into the call and started interviewing me about the canceled game.
Several jokes were made about Julian being like the Grim Reaper.
We scheduled it ahead of time. And it was just like, oh, we're going to talk about this. It's a Bass Reeves like documentary thing, right? But there, like at least one person was like, oh, I thought it was going to come out like any day now if they're doing coverage on it. Like it must be gearing up for release.
And there's like a whole story behind why that happened, which is part of it. But yeah, like that sucks. And it has been entertaining to an extent watching Zolivir because his primary thing is that he is a very good writer and storyteller.
And he comes from journalism too. It's something he cares a lot
exactly.
about.
And so like he's had several moments of doing this like fucking Jekyll and Hyde thing of being torn between like, oh man, that sucks, and also like that's gonna be really good in the story. You gotta do it.
Yeah, you'll see him like. My favorite moment was whenever I was talking to him about how I had this horrible realization that I think I had to watch every single TikTok he made for the entirety of 2023.
Like, the development timeline, he looks sad in this.
It was a rough.
No,
year.
here's the thing, Mandy. It really.
Oh wow!
It paid off. It really paid off for the video. We won't get into it, but I remember telling him that I had to do that that night, and he went like,
"That's right.
You do have to do that. It's really good storytelling." He says.
Yeah, no,
I'm really curious how that'll go.
Well, hopefully in a week or two, probably the longest video I've ever made will be out. So.
And other fun thing, just to prepare you for it, is that we're not actually saying that the game was canceled until it happens in the story. So we're presenting it as if we're telling a post-mortem of a game that could come out very soon until it doesn't anymore. I think that was Julian's
idea.
Is there a possibility that this would cause some kind of demand and the game is uncanceled? Because I don't know anything about this.
Yeah,
it is possible, and it is something that multiple people have said during the interview process. Like, hey, if anyone wants to give us like $80,000 to $100,000, we'll make the game. But like, there's a lot of hurt surrounding its cancellation, and like, there's at least from Zolivir, there's a strong reluctance to want to go for it again because you run the risk of it becoming a white whale.
Like I didn't know if it was like, oh, like every stage this was a nightmare, like it was conceptually wrong. But hearing that, oh, maybe there is something to this.
Yeah.
It's complicated. It's complicated, but like 2023, the year, is one of the main culprits for why it died. But there's also no one reason. It was a perfect storm of a lot of things.
It was a weird swing at a wrong time, and it ultimately ended up being a good thing because it gave them the fact of doing the prototype gave them some additional funding that they needed. But
in order to get the game that saved the studio out the door.
Yeah. It's fun. Like the angle that we were trying to take the story, and part of the reason structurally that it's been working, that we are not telling you that it's canceled until it's done, is because up until that point, every difficulty in the story falls into a very like Raising Kratos indie game the movie. These are the things that are going to go wrong before the team pulls it together and gets the game out.
The magic happens, then it happens. Oh, it's canceled.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
And
that's smart.
Yeah, and like because once you're there, it's like it opens up the big question of like, what the fuck is the point? What was the point of like going on that whole journey? Because in every single one of those movies, the game is the real main character, is the thing that everything happens around. And so what we're trying to do is dig really, really deep into the pain and existential kind of like nihilism of that, especially during that time of that year at that studio, and then come out the other side, hopefully having reframed this as like because this game cancellation didn't ruin any livelihoods, in their words, and it didn't destroy the studio, and everyone basically got to walk away largely unscathed. And it ended up being able to be a learning experience that was necessary for all of the shit that they got to do next. That's the hope.
I mean, those are extremely rare circumstances too.
Yes,
Right?
very
Right?
intentionally crafted and rare circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, even this video is like a part of that. Like the reason Zolliver asked me to do this in part was
It's because no one's life was like destroyed by it.
oh well, not just that. No, it's that like he didn't want all the work people had done never to see the light of day. And so this coverage is a way of like sending it off and like feeling like that work still meant it was still
Yeah.
it still gets to be something for people. Like people get to see it, which again
That's
is
true.
way more than most of these fucking projects ever get.
Yeah. And it is at least worth saying it's not like there's like a backlog of skeletons in his closet and he's like, this is the most presentable one. The whole studio has been kind of swimming against the tide for a while in terms of structuring everything. So if any project fails, the only person's life who gets ruined will be Zolliver's. And hopefully not. But yeah, they're very opinionated about production process.
I mean, that's similar to how Hooded Horse is running with like recoup terms, where we do not do like 100% recoup shit because it's just insane.
Oh, that's interesting.
Hell yeah.
I guess
That's really
I guess
and that's very rare, right?
Yeah, for lay listeners, recoup is basically publisher gives you money to make your game. When the game starts getting sold, before the developer makes money, they have to, all sales are going back towards the publisher to make up the money they put in. And sometimes it's changed, but that's why you'll see news articles are like, oh wow, this game sold 50,000 copies. Isn't that great? And then like 2 weeks later, the studio is shutting down.
Yep.
That's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically it's similar to the Zolliver thing. It's more like Tim looked at it from a legal perspective and he said, it makes no sense to put like all the risk on the party that has the most to lose here. Whereas like if we're a publisher and we have so much money in the back, we have safeguards. If a game is not doing well, why the fuck would you want to strangle the developer with recoup costs where they can't possibly recover from it?
Because it's
compared
fun.
to if we just have a flat split and it's, hey, you sell it, we get a portion, you get a portion. The developer's making money. We're not making as much money back immediately. We will long term. The dev can work on their fucking game.
Yeah, and like even if you want to be like a heartless business cruel bastard mind about it,
It's
like,
long term. It makes sense.
yeah, you are investing in the developer.
Yes.
Because like if you throw 100% recoup on them, then
There's no chance of recovery. People leave.
right, like you lose an investment. You end up just losing an asset
Yeah.
that could give you good stuff in the long run.
Yeah.
By supporting them now, you stand to reap the benefits later.
The problem is they pursue quarterly line go up.
Yeah.
And Hooded
Yeah.
Horse is a privately traded company where it's like the company's bylaws have
That's what it always fucking comes
Yeah.
back to, isn't it?
Yeah, but like in the company's bylaws, it is flat out written in ink, like Hooded Horse can forego profit in favor of artistic expression, something like that.
Oh my god, you're so based. What the fuck?
Yeah, it basically says like if this isn't going to make money, we might sign it anyways because there might be another game that makes money, or if a game's not doing well, like things can happen to make sure the developer's okay. Where it's like if anyone's going to take a hit, if it's going to be players or developers or us, it's better that it's on our end because we could probably recover it from somewhere else. And hey, this will all likely work out in the long term because we don't have to make something look good for a quarterly report. It's, hey, the developer's game came out, has some issues. Like, should we just strangle them now? Or should we just go, okay, let's give them time and make sure they could fucking live and work on their game.
They
It'll
look
work
like
out in
they're
the long
struggling
term.
for air. Do we cut the supply off or?
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I
It's
mean,
terrible.
there's like a really and this makes sense in a vacuum, but there's a very straightforward perception of like,
like
if a
because they
developer,
can't breathe.
I swear to God, Julian. No, but yeah, there's this reasoning that makes very much sense on its face amongst audiences, which is that like if a developer makes a bad game, then they deserve to go out of business because they have entered a bad product into the market, and we will make room for better products. But the problem is that if you're doing that so aggressively that like a studio that makes an okay selling game can't pick themselves back up, you end up with an industry full of largely first-time developers where like you don't get to have people that gain experience and make really great shit over long periods of time because they've grown as human beings.
Very few people are Hikita or like fucking Toby Fox. When even then, like they're doing little experiments and stuff you don't see tons of.
Yeah.
But like, let's think of good developer. I think of Donald Mustard. He was the director of a game called Advent Rising in 2005. After he did like cutscene direction on Blood Rain in 2003. And it's like, Advent Rising is kind of a fucking nightmare game. Like, there's interesting stuff about it, but you thought, it'll be like this big, it'll be like, it'll be so cool, like this big, like before Mass Effect, like it'll be this trilogy of games, like your choices will pass along them. Game wasn't good, sold pretty badly, that was all canceled. He said, okay, I'm gonna work on mobile games instead. He made the fucking Infinity Blade games. He's the creative director on those.
Oh.
Which, Infinity Blade's fucking great. And then a few years later, he designs a game called Fortnite.
Oh, I see.
Between a few other of those okay or bad games, it leads him eventually making Fortnite. Which you could say, oh, Fortnite's not good. Fortnite sure is fucking popular.
And we have you can do the inverse of this too, right? Like, I love pointing to Remedy as an example because I mean, like, they had a really fucking rough patch there for a while. Quantum Break, fucking. Like, and even their early games, like, you know, they're very of their time. Max Payne 1, I would argue, did not age extremely gracefully. It's charming for that reason, but...
I mean, there's a reason you can't really buy it easily anymore either. It's a fucking technical nightmare.
Yeah. Still runs great on Xbox One, though, somehow. But anyway...
Love that Kong whiskey.
The fact that they have been around for as long as they have has enabled them to do something that I doubt I've really seen a lot of other developers do, which is scale up and like chase the big money, but also actually be artistically interesting. And, like, Sam and I talked about this a lot, and I coined the term post cringe.
Yeah,
because it feels like
cringe.
Because we were talking about Alan Wake 2.
And like compare it to Alan Wake 1, right? Which is like the campiest shit ever. And like I can't tell how self-aware it is.
Right, because last time we talked about it, you had not played, I think, either of them.
No.
Because Brendan and I were like, wait till you get to Alan Wake 2. It's going to be different.
I adore Alan Wake 2 because it takes all of the things that worked and that Remedy had been building towards with every game leading up to it and like embraces it with the newfound artistry that they have and are able to use from their team. It's like they've been doing these weird fucking things, incorporating live action, leaning really hard into the movie game angle, third thing I can't remember right now. Like, it feels like a culmination. And this is only something that could have happened because they've been making games for as long as they have, right?
Yeah.
And when we say we aren't just talking about Remedy Games, the incorporated company. We're talking about like the specific people. A lot of their leadership has been there for decades. If you look at their investor page online, some of the biggest owners are still the creative directors there.
This is what Ed and I were talking about with that MotorStorm video, right? Like, that was the tragedy of evolution, is that like most of the people who were creatively leading those projects were in the same relative positions since the early days of like making, you know, WRC licensed games on the PS2. Their last title just simply was not profitable enough for all the same fucking things we're talking about.
Maybe it'll go on Steam. We'll see. Maybe that'll be the big comeback.
Yeah, I'm sure Drive Club will resurrect Evolution Studios. I'm sure that'll happen.
Night Dive Drive Club.
Yeah.
I mean, my only problem is they didn't execute those fuckers right after that game didn't do it.
My only problem is that there isn't like an awesomer graphics mode for like PS4 Pro, PS5.
Mandy, what's your biggest problem with the developers of Drive Club?
My biggest problem with the developers of Drive Club?
Yeah, what's the worst thing you can think of about Evolution Studios?
I guess they quit.
Wow, that's somehow worse than both of the things that we said.
I never played Drive Club, unfortunately. I just saw the video.
I also haven't played Drive Club. That's just,
Sony liquidated them, so they quit.
They gave up.
Fuck, what the fuck are we talking? Can I just pivot in a completely different direction? So, I believe before we went on like a 40-minute tangent, you were talking about the thing that got you to accept the position at Hooded Horse.
Right. Yeah, it was mainly when he said that they could forego profit in the company's bylaws, and that he spoke at length about the problems in this industry. And like, the human.
As a marketing lead, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was the CEO and the marketing lead talking about the problems in it and basically the human cost to it. And he said, I don't remember the words exactly, but it was in the vein of like, we want us to show that we can be successful in games and we don't have to like make it a nightmare for the people working in it. Like game publishing doesn't have to be parasitic. It doesn't have to be just like all these problems that not every publisher has. There are other good publishers, but there are a lot of not good publishers out there too. They're very exploitive.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Where he's like, we don't want to be exploitive with it. And it's like, we want to like, look, here's like our company handbook and like how we run things. And we're hoping that like, hey, if this model's successful, maybe more people will adapt it and this can kind of spread around. And I went, oh shit. Now it has gone from, I don't know if I want to work with a publisher to, oh fuck, I think I have to work with them because it's like, this seems so out of my league, but it's like, I should try to help them succeed if they think they need me. And it was like a rough onboarding process for like 3 months trying to catch up with like that many, like the amount of developers and stuff I was meeting was crazy over that period of time.
While still maintaining your own channel.
Yeah, which did slow
and
down.
not doing contract work anymore.
Yeah, which is different. But it's like Sam was asking earlier, because I don't know if I answered this because we went on such a tangent, like a developer making a video or someone for like a publisher making a video. And it's like, oh fuck, that is a good point. It's like at the end of the day, it's not like I don't have like a sole decision on like if we're signing a game or not. We basically have the C-suite comes together. And the process how it works now is like there's a scouting inbox. People are like combing through the scouting inbox. And if something looks interesting, like it could get passed on to me or like 2 or 3 other people. Like there's this whole kind of filter system before it like kind of lands in my lap. Because sometimes like people will pitch good games all the time, but they're just not like a great fit if it's like, oh, well, you know, considering the rest of our catalog, it's probably not for our audience. Like there have been times that are like agonizing where it's like, it's so borderline or, oh my God, this game is so cool, but like, fuck, it's not for us. Like, but even in those cases, like we'll sometimes pass along to like another publisher we like, or some like try to secure funding for them elsewhere.
Oh, that's cool.
Like if like Tim knows people in like the, in sort of the funding space, like he knows other people like publishers, like he knows people at Devolver too. So if we get something that looks interesting but might not be for us, he'll pass it along or like basically help them succeed because he's like, oh yeah, we shouldn't try to view it as too competitive. Like we're all like, everyone in the C-suite likes good games and we're in the business of, oh wow, I would like there to be more good games. Let's make this happen even if it's not for us.
And you could also make the bastard cold heartless argument that like it's good for the industry generally to have more things succeed in this environment.
Yeah,
so, like,
sure.
You really don't have much reason to not be helping people.
Like when he did an interview before about the no recoup thing, he said something like, he said, and I don't mean to come off as altruistic, because it's like I don't want people to think like we're gonna throw money at people out of the goodness of our hearts. Like we are at the end of the day, like it does need to like we need to keep employees fed and everything.
Yeah.
But it's like it's just more it's short-sightedness that's causing so many of these issues. Or hey, maybe our executives don't need a $30 million bonus. Like maybe if we just conserve that and like and have more money in the back end, that's for the better compared to doing these more short-sighted moves. It's like, yeah, is it a good thing to keep your developer in a good spot so they could work on their game and not throttle it immediately? Yes. And in the long term, it's better for the company, but it's not like, oh, you know, this thing didn't do well, let's shuffle resources away and pour it into the thing that is doing good. It's just very short-sighted.
And so this leads us to Direct Horse.
Yeah, which I think that was the debut of like, because I had talked to a few people before that I was working there, but I never like, I was never like broadcasting out like, I'm working at a game publisher now. Like on Patreon, I'd talked about it a bit. I'm trying to remember like there's some other interviews where I'd mentioned it, but I didn't want it to be, my approach was that I didn't want to be the YouTuber's company, quote unquote, because there have been other games where the YouTuber, when I say the YouTuber, like there's not more, there's not just one. But
they assume the voice and the face of the company,
right? Where it's like, oh, I'm funding this game, or I am in this creative lead of this game, or they've done something, but it makes it like the entire thing is like, oh, maybe this YouTuber gave $300,000 to some little indie studio, but it's like, oh, it's their game, it's X's game, and because we were right in the cusp of Mandalore coming out, which was that sold gangbusters. I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm the YouTuber. And this is my publisher, Hooded Horse. These are all games that I'm working on. Where it's like the amount of work I'm doing at a Hooded Horse game is so variable. Like there could be one I have not played for work, like Against the Storm, Like they're like, oh, that's doing fine. Like you don't need to. It's been out. You don't need to touch it.
Like you don't want to claim their victory. Is that
kind of that? Like I didn't want to diminish it because Mandalore did fine on its own for months. Hooded Horse was called the Mandalore's publisher in news articles. If something came out about Norland or Cataclysmo, it's like Mandalore's publisher now brings us Cataclysmo because that's the click thing.
Yeah, I mean, basically you don't want to be seen as the guy making the games, and that's an easy thing to be confused as.
Yes, absolutely.
That's an easy thing to be confused for the casual viewer, unless you want to spend a lot of time outlining your actual relationship.
Yeah, it was that, and after I heard from Tim what the company was about, I went, oh, this company is doing so many like good things on their own already. I don't want it to be like I'm stepping in front of this and then going, oh, what? And like as good news is coming out about the company, it's like, wow, that YouTuber's company is doing such good things. That's because he knows the industry. Where it's like, no, this was this was already in place when I came into it.
I mean, just saying that like they hired you already does a lot of like work in establishing the difference, because that's not the norm, right? Yeah. It's these guys who will fund a startup that is now a publisher or whatever the fuck else.
I thought that the off-brand games specific one was really interesting because it felt like their angle was, we like right now the way that you market your game is very much personality based. Like no matter what studio you're at now, that is one of the main angles that people take, and a lot of developers can't really do that well. And so it felt like they were trying to lend the developer that angle by being like, oh, okay, you guys now get to be, you know, the game that YouTuber is attached to, and the YouTuber streamer character is not fucking character.
It can be sometimes.
Like in the marketing narrative, they get to be like this outsider looking in while also funding it and being like, this is what the company is doing. Isn't this awesome? And like get people to care that way. But it doesn't make any sense to do that for a Hooded Horse.
No, because there is absolutely value in that. Like there have been the YouTuber and streamer games that no one would have, well, I won't say no one, but way less people would have been interested in if they didn't have that name attached to them.
Yep.
Where it's like, it can make sense. Like, oh shit, it's like that person's doing a game. Like that gets lost.
Animal Well is a great example of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
I mean, fucking, hey, you want to see this in action? There's many of these publishers. Look at the streamers sitting next to the developer and see how uncomfortable the developer looks to have that many eyes on them, and how comfortable the streamer is. It's like that is a real service that is being done for that money,
and it's way more effective in a lot of cases than the publisher just like spending money to run banner ads on Twitter or whatever.
Like the return can be crazy on it.
Yeah, just got to be careful with how you present it.
Yeah,
which is why Direct Horse was so important,
and why it was so important nightmare.
Culturally, landmark moment.
Well, after Direct Horse, I knew it went well because people were still going, "Wait, do you really work here? Like, what is this?" Like,
we should explain to the viewer what Direct Horse is. I think we have been foreshadowed. It's the first thing we talked about. We are an hour into recording, and the viewer still might not even know what the fuck it is.
We should not explain what it is until that should be the last thing we say on the podcast, and just kind of let the viewer imagine with their mind's eye what Direct Horse is. That would be good podcasting.
I'm so proud that I coined that. I really didn't expect you to latch on to Direct Horse. Well, I said that as a joke.
I know. It's like, oh, it's like a horse direct. You went Direct Horse. Went, fuck it, sure.
Yeah, make it stupider.
Run us through it.
From my POV, you just like at some point you DM me and you're just like, so Hooded Horse wants me to do like some kind of show of some kind. That like I don't think you even knew exactly what they wanted from you at the time. The only thing that was really clear was that at least I took away from it is that there were no rules and you could basically do whatever you wanted, and you had zero budget, and you were moving into a very interesting house, and you were interested in how that could be incorporated aesthetically.
This is all completely accurate. So I was in the middle of moving, and the place I moved into it's a murder basement. It has reinforced like commercial grade doorways on it. It's like steel, but it looks insane.
It has
There was
like a what's the measurement thing that?
Oh,
was
the
just
radon
installed?
pump. Yeah.
Yeah, the radon pump, the real ass radon pump.
There's a radon pump in there to stop radon from building up in the basement and giving me lung cancer. But it's connected through like this wire going into the wall that's like coming that they molded like concrete around.
Cement poured on it.
Like there's this weird sludge that's like coming on the walls, which they couldn't. To this day, it's not identified. One of the inspectors thought it might be sealant.
You're talking about it like the Dead Space disease thing.
Yeah, they didn't know. To this day, they don't know what it is. Like, there's a mummified lizard in there. Like,
yeah. They had you censor that.
Yeah, that was one of the few things that I just censored the lizard husk. Because it actually looked mummified. It was like dried out completely.
Viewers who don't know what Direct Horse is are fucking baffled right now.
Right. So I had this nightmare basement. And the entire thing was we had a Steam takeover coming up, which is like it was being kept very hush hush. Was very like, oh shit, we have to like make sure our store pages are nice. We have to make sure like the key art's good, campaigning around it, all this stuff.
Steam takeover should be explained probably because that's not a term that is common.
Right. Okay. So
you were gonna do a sale, and then Steam was like, if you're gonna do one, you could do a whole ass takeover. We could put your banner on like the front of the store page. You know, the whole thing.
Yeah. You'd click on Steam, and you'd see Hooded Horse instantly, which was like a very big, like a very, very big thing to get, especially as like a publisher for our size. That's usually like EA and Ubisoft can like swing that easily. Yeah. This was like, oh shit, this could be like the biggest like sale period for the company, like in our history.
And so like already that's a lot.
It was a lot of pressure. And basically the CEO, like Tim, had asked me like, hey, would you want to do like a video for the sale? And I went, okay, cool. And in the meanwhile, I went to we had a leadership conference in London. All this stuff was happening. I was moving, and I came back and I'm like, okay, I have about a month, maybe less, to make this like publisher showcase. And it was realizing that I've never done a show before. Like, how do you do a show solo? It's just me on this. And to be fair, when it's no budget, he did say he would give me budget, but I decided it'd be better to lean into just doing it as ratchetly as I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, we gave money for it. And it's like, okay, but what would I realistically, if they gave me a ton of money for it, like what would I spend it on that I could put together in that kind of time frame? Like there was not much of value I could do for that. So I went, okay, it's just me on it. The rest of marketing and everyone else, they're working on like Steam backend stuff. I'm just kind of left to my own devices on this. And they say like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Whatever you do will be great. Like, okay, like, can I reveal any games? Like, we have a process for that. So not really. It's like, okay, can I have any new trailers? It's like, no, well, trailers are like already out. It's like no new trailers. It's like, okay, so I have
what the fuck?
Yeah,
what's the show?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I have a publisher showcase. I have no games I can announce, which we still have so many unannounced games. There's no games I can announce. I have no trailers. I have nothing I can reveal. They said do whatever, basically. Just talk about the sale.
They unknowingly created a perfect storm for you.
Yeah, so I went, okay, I will vaguely talk about Hooded Horse games and have this like meta layer of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and this is kind of a nightmare to put together. and that became the framing for it.
Yeah.
Like so much in that video is real that people would think is a myth.
I mean, the radon levels are already like
the radon charts,
the fucking
the disgusting vent.
The mold covered vent.
100% real. It's clean now. Like that vent picture, 100% real. Like the lizard corpse, completely real. Like even like the little scenes of just like, because Julian, you sent me like this. You sent me like 2 webcams. One was this fucking nightmare one.
Yes,
because the one had a manual focus on it, and I could not believe there was a webcam with manual focus. So I was putting B-roll into the show itself, like I was like actually muttering to myself, like, who puts a fucking manual focus on webcam? It's like, oh wow, that sounds really irritated. I'll put that in. Where it was like actual problems.
No, the amounts of little things like that made it in. The Brendan almost fucking up the world premiere read is one of my favorites.
Well, even like the TV, the idea was, oh, cool. Like the previous owners left this TV in here. I can like plug
with
I can
cords
plug a
dangling out of it that are just also built into the fucking cement.
Well, 'cause I went, oh, cool. I could plug like a laptop into this, and like I could have like a shitty look PowerPoint on it, and I go to use it, and it's an Element TV so old it doesn't have like an HDMI cable. It doesn't it doesn't have USB anything on it. So of course it can't sync to Wi-Fi. So I have it all set up. Like this webcam's pointing up at the TV like I'm gonna display stuff on it, and it's a blue screen the entire fucking show. It work. I just start filming things on the laptop.
That's so good.
I never got that.
Yeah, the entire
for me it was the set dressing.
Yeah, it was staring up at this terrible TV with wires dangling out. Like, oh, there's like someone's gonna show up on that. Nothing ever shows up on that TV. It's in frame the entire time with fucking nothing.
Oh, that's so good. So yeah,
I really loved that fucking moment out of time of you going to the abandoned GameStop and asking why things can't be the way they were. Green Man
that was
to
not
the Halo
abandoned.
poster.
That wasn't abandoned. They just never took it down.
Wait, so that's just a still active GameStop that still has the original like Halo marketing on?
Yeah, that was a GameStop that still had they got this huge like Halo 3 like Master Chief across the windows. The thing is, when people were viewing the footage,
another fun tidbit is, didn't you tell me you had to take the whole ass laptop and the webcam out there to make sure the footage looked like shit?
Yeah, because
you're juggling this bulky ass laptop and this antiquated, horrible webcam at 2 a.m. and we're yelling at Green Man.
I'm just imagining reviewing that security footage.
Well, that's the thing about it too, was because it's like, oh, like cell phones are too nice. Like, I can't go, oh, I'll film this like in low quality and make it kind of look like that footage, because that webcam looked so uniquely shit. Like, even getting it in like the editor, I had to like screen record every clip because it would like the codec was so fucked up on it. The audio would like cut out or play at the wrong times.
You gotta just handbrake that shit, man.
It was a nightmare, but yeah, so for that, like I had to, it's like you said, I was holding the laptop like in one hand and like trying to look through like the laptop's view of the webcam, trying to like make sure I'm getting the shot right. Or like going through the bin. There was so much more to that Toys R Us, which...
Oh, that's so funny.
Like the abandoned, like, hey gamers, like, I'll show you what a real steal is tonight. Like that, that was an actual abandoned Toys R Us.
Oh, wasn't the note that they told you to not include it also real?
Yeah. There were a lot of marketing notes about stuff, but my favorite was people in the company watching it.
What's the ratio of marketing notes in that video that are real versus written by our friend Rio, who you enlisted to help with this?
Oh God, I remember the one Rio did specifically because that was that was over the ants traffic scene.
Yeah,
but the like overlay the ants with it, but oh God, like some was like the chief marketing officer like gave me notes over his like phone, and like him tapping on the phone, I'm like, no, that's him controlling the drone in the scene now. So like that got it integrated in because he'd give me notes that were like, this drone scene like is really going on a long time. Like it's like this would make sense like maybe a horror movie or something, but I think this like needs more going on and needs to be cut.
And then you just made him be the guy who pilots the
drone. So what became more going on is him passing me the notes that there needs to be more going on. So like, tapping on it gets integrated into it.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's so good.
But like the best part was the internal...
truly a project made for Rio to have input on.
The best part...
So exactly how their mind works.
When Slack found out about it, because the company at large did not know this existed, to the point someone on the leadership, our chief production officer, messaged me like a day later. He went, "What the fuck is this? What is this video?" Like we had discussed it like so lightly in meetings. I think he had so much else going on. I think he just forgot like it existed at all. And he's like, I didn't know we were doing a video. Like, what is this?
And now it's like, and imagine the company's shock when it's on the Steam page.
I was amazed it got on the Steam. It was on the very bottom where it belonged. Yeah, but I was amazed it got on the
Steam. Why they put it at the bottom.
I've never ever
Valve
fucking
employees had
seen
to watch that fucking video.
I've never seen a Steam takeover where like it came with a video and it was buried. It's always front and center, but no, it's just someone at some point in the chain was faced with a choice, you know?
Yeah, and that was the right choice.
I think
was
that
just-
that
I
was
mean,
a
the-
cowardly
the
move,
video
honestly,
did
but-
better than we expected by any metric anyway.
Yeah. Like the people in the company, like when the regular employees were seeing it, they were like, they loved it. Like there were people who went like, oh fuck, who had concerns, who were like, hey, like, I remember this one message said, like, hey, are you like allowed to have like Master Chief in there?
Never mind PlayStation Michael.
Well, it was so it was so out of focus that GameStop, unless you know like that Halo 3 like window spread, it's really hard to tell.
I disagree. It's pretty clear.
I don't know. What's not subtle is the copy of Haze being used as a jump scare. I think that's like panning over to Haze.
Come back, I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
Well, because the thing is, these
Talk about a recurring bit.
like
Yeah.
a lot of these showcases, even if they're really silly, they're more for like the business world or like investors. Like, hey, look what these cool things our publisher is doing. Look at how flashy these trailers are. Like Anthony made such good like shorts, and I realized, oh wow, what a beautiful like game sizzle reel. Can we put this at the front of Direct Horse in 4K 60 FPS
So
to hype
It's
up
so
the video,
perfect.
and it just drops into hell right
It
afterwards?
drops into Hikita's beautiful, gorgeous music written for it.
Yeah, Hikita made that soundtrack so fucking quickly too. I want to say he did it in less than a half hour.
Holy
And
fuck.
it was so perfect. With like shitty variants and everything.
The little success sounds, but
Yeah.
I think I said, hey, can you make it sound sort of like Western, but like make it pathetic? So he had, like,
Yeah, just
struggling to play it.
It just sounds like it was made in a MIDI programmer.
Yeah, it sounds atrocious, but
It's so perfect.
what was incredible in the weeks that followed were like I'd be in like pitch meetings or
Right.
like business meetings with our developers.
After the blast.
Yes, but everyone, it gets brought up a lot. Like, oh, we love Direct Horse. Like, we fucking love that video. Not even like they're trying to butter us up for like a pitch meeting or something. We're just having like sometimes dev studios just talk to say hi. And we were talking to this one in the UK, and they were all like baffled by it. Like, where did you film that infested bunker?
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, they're like, Julian knows some names who have seen Direct Horse.
Yeah,
And I'm
we
so mad
We can talk about at least one, right? Which is like the 10 cent, because that was like posted on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, that was a LinkedIn one. Like there were people on like on LinkedIn and stuff where like, oh, this is awesome.
Like chief of marketing for
Larian,
US in 10 cent or whatever the fuck is one of the guys who referred to it as like art humor.
Yeah, Larian's marketing guy tweeted about it. He said something like, he's like, Hooded Horse is the most interesting publisher right now.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's like Direct Horse is great stuff, but the
Very
internal
specific
meetings,
word choice.
yeah. But he's like, oh yeah, they're really efficient at what they're doing, and like it also had this perception of like just talking to other developers and the other publishers about Direct Horse. There was this sense of like, oh wow, like we already knew that from the grapevine, like that you're pretty good to work with and the ethics are good over there. But it's like the fact you had that freedom to make this as like a publisher showcase is so insane. Like the fact it went to these areas like, oh, I know, just let's throw Haze on the screen for a second, where it's more like, oh, this was made to be fun, and it wasn't like, I don't want to say there was no oversight. There was some oversight, but it's clear that, oh yeah, like you were trusted enough to make this thing.
There was not
Yeah.
enough oversight.
It's maybe that, but it was more like, oh, this doesn't feel like a controlled company thing. It's like the fact this is an like official material from a publisher is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, I mean, like the level of scrappiness was like present in every single contribution made to it. It was all just like, who could think of just some shit that would be funny to throw in there? If that's
Yeah,
what
like
made
Rio
it in.
editing like the horse into like the ghost scene.
Yeah,
with,
like
the
mocking
drones.
it up to be like a badass horse of approval seal.
Or like when Brendan was doing lines for it, he was like going off, because I gave him like the Vegas description of the games for him to talk about, and he just like go off script, like talk about YouTube poops and stuff. It's like, fuck it, that's
Yeah.
going in there.
Or the fucking whatever. I asked, what was the game that I got the horse model from?
Oh yeah, that was from Manor Lords.
Yeah, I got you asked the developer to send me a rigged model of a 3D horse.
And he had it good to go. He's
I
like,
sure did, and I did a little bit of tweaks. I put some eyes on it. I made it smile, and I posted a little bit. I put a little horse. I put a little hood on him. got it off of Sketchfab, I think.
Yeah, or like, oh my god, like Tim announcing, like, because again, fluent Mandarin, Tim announcing the launch of Manor for like the Chinese audience. Just like, oh, just do like the Bing chilling,
recording
like,
your own laptop.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like whenever he says hooded horse, have like one of the horse renders flash on screen. just so like out of context, because like who would fucking know? Like, oh, that's like him announcing Mandalore to the Chinese audience. Like, is that even the CEO? Where people in the industry are going, holy shit, I've met him. That is the CEO. Why is he speaking Chinese? What the fuck is what's happening?
I'm still so mad that we never got to do that thing you were talking. Well, you never got to do this thing you were talking about, wherever you jump scared Billy when he was doing an episode of Press Start Turbo.
Oh yeah, I know.
Hi, Billy. You're about to learn on a bit that almost got jumped on you.
Yeah. So Ed was also involved. Ed was like, I want to be the Watari and introduce this. Yeah, because so much was happening, I couldn't get lined up. I actually still need to line up. He doesn't want to talk to someone with hooded horse in the future now, but it was going to be this whole bit where we would have someone probably from the leadership team, because I know them best. Like, someone's going to come onto it, maybe like Tim or
Press Start Turbo, listener, if you don't know, is our podcast editor Billy has a group of podcasts that Mandy and I are also a part of, and one of them is called Press Start Turbo, and it's like focused on video games and shit. And one of the recurring segments is they'll interview someone from the industry, whether that's on the journalism side or the dev side or the publishing side or whatever else.
Right.
And we were thinking of, Mandy was thinking of having someone from Hooded Horse come on, but at this point, Billy did not know that Mandy worked for Hooded Horse in any capacity, which presented a unique opportunity.
Yeah, because like I have so many side quests going on at once in my life, or like so many little things I can just pull out of a hat, which is fun. But it's gonna be like, we're gonna have like Billy will interview him, probably with Cameron. We'll have someone like they're talking for a while, and I was gonna start like recording on my end, and then come into that channel and start being like rude as shit, or like either rude as shit. We have a few ideas, like either be super rude, psychotic. Like I would start yelling at the guest, or the guest would start yelling at me.
Yeah,
like
I was
like,
thinking,
why are you fucking working? Like we get in like this huge fight out of nowhere.
Yeah, I suggested that like one of you try to like pull like the superiority card on the other.
Right,
like you should not fucking be here right now.
And like we'd have like this department conflict. And in the middle of them trying to record their interview. Yeah.
Just watch as Cameron and Billy try to figure out what is going on and if it's salvageable.
What's happening? Why are they yelling? Like, do they know why
sorry,
are they yelling?
I'm so sorry.
What do you mean departments? What's happening?
I don't know what's gotten into
Mandy,
him.
why the fuck did you know we're recording? This couldn't wait?
It's like, what do you mean? Like, why are you wasting your time here on this podcast? Like, just start laying into each other.
There
like,
are 3 games that need your input right now, and you're recording a fucking podcast?
We're launching in 3 days.
Julian, I really like your interpretation that Billy would experience someone coming in and yelling at a guest, and it's the immediate response is, this couldn't wait until after.
Well, no, genuinely, in my mind, that's like one of the things that it's like, whatever the fuck is going on, we're in the recording chat right now. This is kind of a sacred thing.
Because listener, if you don't know, at the end of every Press Start Turbo episode, they take the guest into a secondary channel and then just start hurling atrocious verbal abuse at them for like a good
really
10 minutes.
Racist stuff. Like it's one of the
which is why it has to stay
one
on
of
the
the few
recording
tension
channel.
points that Billy and I have is he thinks it's okay to just berate people with slurs, and like I'm personally like in moderation it's okay, but just like the amount has always rubbed me the wrong way. But you know, it's whatever.
I'll be curious how much of that he keeps in. But yeah, it was such a
That's actually how Billy
idea.
and I met.
Come on, man. What were you saying,
it was such
Mandy?
a good idea, even though like Ed would set it up too.
Yeah.
So like there wouldn't be a clear avenue. Like, oh, I introduced them, and then like we're fighting. It's like, no, Ed finds them.
Yeah.
And then I'd come in, we'd start fighting. It was just that whole lead up was just so fucking busy between like July and September. There was no time.
Shame. Man,
That's a bummer. That's a strong bit.
It was so disappointing.
yeah, I mean, certainly not as strong as some of the other ones that Mandy has started. Mandy, have I told you about Sex FM?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because like,
I have posted some clips for Sex
oh,
FM.
right. Yeah, I remember you're in the right. Yeah.
I haven't done any
just-
DJ bits though. So
I bring
haven't
it
done,
up because of the fact that like that only exists because Mandy edits exist. Like that's how the dominoes have fallen.
It's a weird chain, but I cannot wait for Sex FM, especially with Pacific Drive still getting updates.
Clip
Yeah,
that.
right?
Put that in a bumper.
I cannot wait to hear Top Dog lawyer commercials.
I might actually.
It'll be just like my actual commute.
I think I'm gonna actually sample you saying that and put it in one of the bumpers now, actually, as like an audience like promotional thing.
I can't wait to hear Top Dog lawyers.
Listener, if you don't know what Sex FM is, check an earlier episode. All right, you got to catch up on the lore. You got listening to do.
It's probably out at this point, and if not, I'm gonna dip my head in a vat of acid.
Long story short, wouldn't it be cool if radio was good and awesome?
Wouldn't it be cool if radio was fucking awesome and even more annoying than normal?
What if radio was run by a YouTuber?